Hello, it's Mr. Baglin here, and welcome back to school. I hope you had a fantastic time over the Christmas holidays. Here are some of the things that you can look forward to during the spring term.
Hello, it's Miss Dunn here. I'm going to talk to you about what we're going to be reading and writing in spring term. At the beginning of all of our lessons, we have a recap of previous learning and we call it a Flashback 4. We begin by asking some questions about our previous lessons and then we move on to our previous unit of work and even delve back into last year's learning just to keep it current and turning over in the children's minds. So an example of one question I might ask would be, what type of word describes a verb? The children have time to think about it, talk to their partner, and then hopefully they'll be able to tell me that it's an adverb. Here's another example of a question that I might ask about a previous lesson. What is a suffix? A suffix is letters which are added to the end of a root word and they change its meaning or its tense. Delving back into a previous unit of work, I might ask a question such as, why do we use paragraphs in fiction writing? And again, once the children have had a chance to think about it and talk to their partner, hopefully they'd be able to tell me that we use paragraphs to change location or to show a new piece of action in our fiction writing. Then finally, we really stretch their memories by asking questions about their previous year or term's work. So here I have a question, why do we use an apostrophe, which is something they will have been working on all the way through year 3 and into year 4, and the answer is to show possession or contraction. We're going to begin our unit by reading a fabulous story which has a historical setting. It's a story called Runaways by an author called Jim Eldridge, and it's based in truth. It's based on a true story of the beginnings of Dr. Bernardo's work with children. Now, as we need to familiarise our children with the Victorian era, and not even I was alive at that time, we like to take the children back and give them some background before we start to read the story. So here we've got some information that we've shared with the children about Dr. Bernardo and his ragged schools to give them an idea of the kind of story that they're going to be looking at. So Dr. Bernardo started his ragged schools in the East End of London, which is where our story is set. He was given the name Dr. Bernardo by the people that he used to work with. And today, we like to link it back to today by reminding the children that Dr. Bernardo's is still an active charity in the UK, helping lots of children in distress every single year. And then we go on to ask the children what they currently know about Victorians. This is some previous knowledge that we pull out from the children because we all bring different amounts of knowledge to the table. And then we go on to think about what they know about things that happened to children in Victorian times, as well as what makes someone an orphan, because unfortunately that is part of our story. It revolves around 2 orphans, and as hard-hitting a topic as it is a topic that we share with the children. Then we go on to share some more information about the Victorians. Here we've got some pictures and some information about what the children can expect to find in the story because it happened in Victorian times. We talk about how the children look, how differently they're dressed to the way that we're dressed today, and we talk about what happened to children that unfortunately did lose their parents, because it happened quite a lot, and the fact that they either have to live on the streets or they have to go to a workhouse. We talk about the workhouses, the fact that people were sent there almost as a punishment for being poor. And we look at the staff that would have worked in the workhouse where the children would have been sent. Through this unit, we look at how an author shows the audience what a character is like rather than explicitly telling them. So here we're looking at the character of Mr. Patch, who is the master of the workhouse and not a very nice character at all. However, the author doesn't tell us that he's not a nice character. He lets us make our own mind up. So here you can see in yellow we've got bits highlighted. I've highlighted that he's the master of the workhouse. He says, "I've got the perfect boy for you, Mr. Parker," which tells us that he's trying to sell John, which is not a nice thing to do to a person, is it? We don't believe in slavery. John, poor little John's just 8 years old. He's thin as a rake and he's really poorly. And Mr. Patch doesn't have a problem with selling John because he's an orphan, so he's got nobody to answer to, and he's the only family that poor John has got. So, as a collective, as a class, we can reach the conclusion that Mr. Patch is an awful, awful character that we would not like to meet in our real life. Our many weeks of work and understanding the story will lead to us being able to write a new chapter for the book. And here we have some work that I wrote with the help of the children last year. So we write on every other line so that the children have then got room to go back and to edit. As you can see on the top line in green, the children have helped me to edit and improve my writing by adding in a different adjective. So we have, as the dark, still night settled around me, I tossed and turned between the soft, clean sheets. What a week it has been! Finally, we were safe and John was going to get the care that he needed. Now, as you can see there are some words in red. And as I'm modelling writing for the children and they're giving me their ideas, I like to make deliberate mistakes so that they can pick them up and they can correct them. It's usually errors that we find the children are making within their own spelling. So helping me to correct mine helps them to not make that mistake in the future.
Time for some more Flashback 4. This time for numeracy. Question 1. Can you name the 4 number operations? The 4 number operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. Question 2. What name do we give the opposite number operation? We call it the inverse. Question 3. Look at these words and phrases: remainder, factor, share and quotient. What number operation does this vocabulary refer to? They all refer to the division number operation. Question 4. What special name does 0 have with regard to place value? We call it a placeholder. In numeracy this half term, we're going to be working with all 4 number operations. Mr. Baglin's group will be continuing to learn about addition and subtraction. The methods for both number operations use our knowledge of partitioning. This is where we split 2 and 3 digit numbers into tens and ones for 2-digit numbers. 26 splits into 20 and 6. 49 splits into 40 and 9. 73 splits into 70 and 3. Three-digit numbers split into hundreds, tens and ones. 116 splits into 100, 10, and 6. 254 splits into 200, 50, and 4. We will be working towards using the expanded column method for both of the number operations. We have already learnt the partitioning method of addition. Let's work through the example shown to the right. First, we do a small partition jot to split the numbers into tens and ones. Then we label the column headings tens and ones and fill in the numbers 80 from the first two-digit number plus 40 from the second two-digit number. Next we add the ones numbers, making sure we line up the columns. Now we add the tens numbers together. 80 plus 40 equals 120. Now we add the ones, making sure we line up our columns. Just to make sure, let's put the column headings in. Then we continue by adding the ones together, the tens together, and the 100s together, giving us the answer 134. We will move our knowledge of addition on by learning the expanded column method. Let's work through the example shown on the right. This looks a little different. First, we add column headings hundreds, tens and ones. Then we write in the two-digit numbers. 86 plus 48. We work with the ones column first, adding 6 and 8 together to give us 14. Then we work on the tens numbers. We've got 80 plus 40 equals 120. To finish the sum off, we add the ones numbers together. 4 plus 0 is 4. The tens numbers, 10 and 20 equals 30. And the hundreds, 0 plus one lot of 100 equals 134. Hopefully you can see the progression of skills between the two different methods. For subtraction calculations, we will be learning an expanded column method too, but this one looks a little different. We're going to work through the example shown on the right, and it includes us having to exchange numbers, but I'll explain a little more when we work through the calculation. First, we perform our little partitioning jot, splitting the first three-digit number into 100s, tens and ones numbers, and the two-digit into tens and ones. Then we write it out with the 100 number, with the 30, and with the 2. Oh, I've just spotted I've made a bit of a mistake. That shouldn't be 20, that should be a 2. Then we write in the tens number from the 2-digit number and the ones number. Now obviously the 2-digit number doesn't actually have a hundreds digit, so we can almost think of it as having a 0 in front of it, and that's why there's nothing under there. Lining up the columns, remembering to put in our equals sign and the number operation, and we begin to subtract starting with the ones, but we can't take away 6 from 2, so we have to exchange one of the tens. So we take 1 10 from 30 and we put it into that ones column. Now we can subtract 6 from 12, giving us 6. Working with the tens, we can't subtract 50 from 20, so we have to again exchange one of the hundreds into that column, which allows us now to take away 50 from 120, giving us an answer of 70. And there are no hundreds left to subtract, so that stays blank. Recombining the tens and the ones number gives us our final answer of 76. Before we reach this type of calculation, we will have spent time securing our knowledge of exchanging numbers using different manipulatives such as base 10 blocks and place value counters. Miss Dunn's numeracy group will be learning all about multiplication and division. I'll let her explain all about it.
The children will be working really hard to learn all of their times table facts from 1 times 1 all the way up to 12 times 12. This is really important and it helps with so many different areas of numeracy, particularly multiplication obviously and division, but also fractions, which will be coming up later in the year. One of the most important things that we try to explain to the children with regards to multiplication is that the numbers are commutative. That's just a big fancy maths word for they can be swapped over. So 1 times 10 would give us the same calculation as 10 times 1 and would give us the same answer. Our overall aim with multiplication is to be able to multiply a 3-digit number by a 1-digit number. And to get the children there, we take lots of different smaller steps. We work on multiplying by 10 and by 100, talking about using the placeholder to pop in a placeholder. We begin with what we call an expanded column method, and this helps the children to understand where the numbers in the calculation come from. So here I've got 23 times 3. The first thing that we would do is multiply the ones number. So here we have the calculation 3 times 3, which gives us a product of 9. The next thing that we would do is to multiply the tens number and create the calculation 20 times 3. And write that in the line underneath. 20 times 3 equals 60. The final step that we then make is to add together 9 and 60 to give us the final product of 69. Once the children have learned where all the numbers come from, then we would do a 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication. So we'd start in the ones column exactly the same and we'd do 2 times 8, which is 16. So I'd write my 6 in the ones column and I'd carry the 110 underneath the tens column. Then I would do 30 times 8, which is 240, and then I bring in my other 110 to give me 256. Once the children are fluent with 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication, both long and short method, then we move on to 3-digit by 1-digit, and your children will be doing calculations like this in no time. Here I've got 153 times 6, we follow exactly the same process. We multiply the ones number first, then the tens number, and then the hundreds number. Finally, we add them all together to give us the product. Division is traditionally thought of as the hardest of the four operations to understand. It does have a very close link with multiplication, and we use groups of in division as well as in multiplication. Some of the other vocabulary that we use is to share or to group, to divide by. We also look at it as repeated subtraction. We talk about division and remainders. We build understanding with division through the use of practical apparatus such as place value counters. And once we've secured that, we move on to picture representations that we call arrays. I'll use the same calculation to walk you through what we call the concrete method, which is the place value method you can see on the screen, the pictorial method, the use of an array, and then through using a number line and into the final bus stop method that we use in school. So here on my board I've got my calculation 44 divided by 4 equals, and I've sorted out counters. I've got 4 tens counters to give me 40, and I've got 4 ones counters for 44. So the first thing that we will get the children to do is to put them into groups of 4. Okay, so that's one group. I'll just move them down the board a little bit further here. So that's 2 groups. There's 3 groups. Whoops. Move it along, and 4 groups. So we try and make sure that they can see that there's a separation between the 4 groups. So let me just use my pen. So here we've got 1 group, 2 groups, whoops, 3 groups, and 4 groups. And then we would just ask the children to count how much they have in each group. So in this case we've got 10 and 1 is 11, and each of the groups has 11 because 44 divided by 4 gives us a quotient of 11, and we do use that vocabulary with the children quite regularly to get them used to it. On then to the array, you can see on my screen lots of pretty blue circles. I nearly said pretty blue squares, and I've arranged them into 4 equal groups. So again, here I've got 1 equal group, excuse my drawing, 2 equal groups, 3 equal groups, and very finally 4 equal groups. And then we will get the children just to count how many counters are in one of those groups, because they can see that they are equal. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, because 44 in 4 equal groups gives us 11 in each group. On to the number line then. 44 divided by 4. We try to get the children here to use partitioning. So they would partition the number 44 into its tens and its ones, and then they would work out how many lots of 4 are in 40, and it's of course 10. So we'd make one jump here of 40. Sorry, put that 40 in the wrong place. So we'd make one jump here to the number 40, and that would be 10 lots of 4. And then we would make another jump to 44, and we would work out that 4 is 1 lot of 4, and then we would add those two together to give us 11. The final method that we will use with the children is the bus stop method, which you may be familiar with and gives people nightmares from school. So here I will write the dividend in the middle, the big number. The divisor will go on the outside, and you can see here I've got a T and an O at the top of my screen. We try and get the children to use those place headers. T stands for tens, O stands for ones, to help them remember that the 4 here, let me change my pen, the 4 isn't 4 as in 4 ones, it's 4 tens. So there are 10, so a 1 goes into the tens column. There are 10 lots of 4 in 40, and then there are 1, or is 1 lot of 4 in 4, which gives them a total of 11 lots of 4 in 44. At the beginning of each lesson, we remind the children that we are being geographers and what that means. It means to explore and find out about the world in which we live. Once again, we have our flashback 4 to bring forward knowledge that our children have previously learned. So here I have a question: what is the name of the ocean which can be found to the west of Britain? And it's the Atlantic Ocean. Then of course we take them further into either last term's work or the year before's work. Here we have a question that relates to their UK and home topic from year 3, which is what is the nearest city to Dudley, and hopefully they'll be able to give me, once they've discussed it and shared it with a partner, the answer: Wolverhampton. Throughout all of our lessons we incorporate our key schema into the lessons, and we add to and adjust the schema as we go. So here we have the Wren's Nest schema for the topic of food, and here we will add as we go along to our knowledge of food, may it be food production in countries like the United States and in countries such as Costa Rica. I'm hoping that the children will be able to tell me that they remember all the way back to year 2 that Costa Rica is a big producer of chocolate. So it helps again to bring back knowledge that they've previously learned and keep it fresh in their mind. And here we have our fashion schema web, which isn't just about fashion as we know it for clothes, it's more about trends. So in here, when we're looking at our North America topic, we'll be looking at trends such as ecotourism. Our third and final schema that we weave through all of our lessons is technology, and this might be changes in technology regarding building. It might be changes in technology such as the development of ecotourism that we mentioned in fashion, and there you can see how the webs also interweave together. We will use a variety of online resources and school books such as atlases to look at the countries in detail. The children will have an opportunity to investigate human geography as well as physical geography. Human geography is geography that affects humans. It looks at how we use the land and the changes that we've made to it. And physical geography looks at the natural aspects of the earth, things that would probably still be the same even if humans weren't here. We will also be looking at the diversity of climates that can be found across the continent of North America. As you can see from my current temperature map on screen, up in the very northernmost parts of Canada, which is at the very north tip of the continent of North America, they're actually in the Arctic Circle, so obviously incredibly cold temperatures. But then right the way down in the south of the continent of North America, we're into the subtropical countries of Costa Rica and Panama. Massive diversity and really interesting, hopefully, for the children.
This term we are scientists. We're trying to find out why and how things work. We are experimenting. Time for some more Flashback 4. This time for science. What is the name of the electrical energy that flows from place to place? This is called the current. What shouldn't you touch a light switch or plug socket with? You shouldn't touch anything electrical with wet hands. In science, we will be finishing our learning about electricity. We've already learnt that we use electricity in just about everything that we do in modern life. We have learnt how electricity is generated and transported from the power station to our homes. We have also learnt about the dangers of electricity and how to use electrical appliances as safely as possible. We will be learning lots of key scientific vocabulary and how to design and create simple electrical circuits. The next unit of study will be all about the different states of matter that exist. These are solids, liquids, and gases. We will learn the properties of each state and how the particles within are arranged, describing them using scientific vocabulary. We will be paying particular attention to the 4 stages of the water cycle. Again, using key scientific vocabulary. Remember that there are lots of different ways that you can get in touch with us to share what you have been practicing at home. You can contact us via email or through the school WhatsApp. Thanks a lot for watching our video. I hope you enjoyed it.